Biodiesel is a readily usable form of diesel fuel, a type of fuel that burns immediately in a diesel engine and is made out of vegetable oil. So it's made out of biomaterial. That's why they call it biodiesel. Now, the original diesel engine made by Rudolf Diesel was run on peanut oil. So the engines are made to run on vegetable oils. And a lot of people convert their diesel engines into running straight vegetable oil without converting it into biodiesel. To do that, you have to warm up that vegetable oil so it moves a little bit smoother. So you have to convert your engine. And that costs a lot of money. And also, it doesn't have the good burning properties of biodiesel. Biodiesel doesn't clog up the injectors on the, in the fuel system. And it burns a lot cleaner. There's no sulfur oxides, so there's a lot less contamination and pollution than regular diesel fuel, and it smells a lot better too, so there's immediate benefit.
What does biodiesel smell like, you guys?
French fries.
Yeah. One of the big problems we have in our community is the pollution from the sulfur fumes from all the stinky buses and cars running around town. They smell really bad, and we also know that contributes to respiratory illnesses, problems for our lungs, and also climate change. So what we've done here with the students at the school is we built our own biodiesel processor. We've been collecting these big jugs of waste vegetable oil right here from local restaurants who usually throw that stuff away onto the ground or throw it out. So we're going to use this to fuel some of the cars here, and we started with our school bus, which we've only got running on biodiesel one time, but we got everything going a little bit smoother now, so we're going to keep it going and try and get the bus onto about 90 liters a week of pure biodiesel. And right now, this is our processor. It's full to about right here, full of biodiesel. It's got about 80 liters or so in it of oil that we're going to prepare. And we're going to do the first step right now, which is heating it up. And why do we heat it up at first?
To remove the water.
So we're going to get the water out of all that oil. It's really wet here, and so all the water sits in that oil, and that'll mess up the processing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the pump, and it's going to keep mixing it around while the oil's heating, and then we're going to go check out the bodega that we're getting built because we got some money donated to us. So we're going to build a nicer area so we don't have all this cluttered mess that I've made and these guys made too, so we can work a little bit better. So I'm going to plug this in and we'll see how our processor works. So you can see it's just taking the oil from the bottom of the tank and bringing it back up and dropping it down on the top, and that's just a simple way to mix it all. It sucks the oil down from the bottom and drops it back on top. This is a little thermometer. I used a meat thermometer to measure the temperature, and that helps us regulate how hot or cold it's getting. If you get it too hot, it'll evaporate the chemicals, the methoxide that we use to process, and we'll lose it. Our main cost right now is methanol. So that's an industrial chemical. It's methyl alcohol, and we have to get it from a lab that makes it really pure, that has very, very little water, a tiny bit of water in it. And the other chemical we use is potassa, which is potassium hydroxide. You can also use sodium hydroxide, but the grocery stores here sell the potassa for really cheap. So we go with that, and it works really well. That makes the compound that you use, you mix the methanol and the potassa to make the methoxide, which is a compound that splits the vegetable oil into glycerin and biodiesel. Right in here, it looks kind of goopy. This is the glycerin that comes off right now. And we can mix this with just a little bit more water and sodium hydroxide and make some nice hand soaps and dish soaps that work really well. It cuts the grease very well, and it's a lot better for the environment than pouring in the regular soaps that have a lot of phosphates in them. The main cost is really the methanol. However, with the setup we're working on building right here, we've got, this looks kind of like a little, like we're distilling whiskey, but it's actually going to be distilling the methanol. We capture the vapors after we've done processing. We can take the biodiesel separately and then the glycerin separately and warm those both up, and that evaporates the excess methanol so we can reuse that. I imagine, based on what we had made before in Denver, that the end cost will run probably about $1 a gallon to $2 a gallon. So a lot cheaper. And it really, a lot of that depends on how much methanol we can recover and how the price of the methanol changes.
Once they put it on a bus and we ride to our homes with biodiesel. A little bit less smoke. If the community gets together and we all work in biodiesel, maybe we could work a lot. We need to do a lot of french fries.
Yeah.
Like here, we also learn like to recycle paper and plastic and all of that. It's like when you come here, things are different like from public schools because public schools don't recycle things. Like they throw it on the trash.
The first time we just poured the biodiesel into the bus, but after a few days it clogged up the fuel filter because it's got an old fuel system and it's really dirty from having regular diesel in it. So now the only thing we have to do is put a new fuel filter in front of that other one that we can remove and clean. Probably just $5 or $10 for a small inline fuel filter, because you don't have to use a regular kind. Costa Rica is a very environmentally concerned country because so much of the economy here depends on the environment, and a lot of people are switching to biodiesel because they know it's better and it's cheaper, and because gasoline prices are soaring. This week we saw gasoline hit $98 a barrel for the first time. So these guys, this class, and all the students here that get exposed to this biodiesel project, they'll have information they can take anywhere in the world because people want to learn this stuff. They'll be able, like I did, to come to another place and teach other people about how to make an alternative fuel source, which is huge because for here on out, petroleum is going to get more expensive and it's going to get more scarce because we're consuming more and there's a finite amount of it left over. So these guys are the next step.
So this is where the biodiesel bodega is going to happen. They're going to be laying concrete block into here, putting down a level. They want to put it like a little bit on an angle so that you can easily clean it out and drain it out. Yeah. We have some questions though. We want to hear input about where would you like doors to go? You need to hear about drainage, that kind of stuff, like how much oil and what kinds of materials are going to be coming off. Is it something you want to collect or is it something you want to filter down in?
Well, if it spills, it'll probably be the oil spilling or the biodiesel spilling, both of which we can clean up easily as long as we have somewhere for it to go. So we do need a drain pipe. Most of the stuff I've been thinking about is in terms of lighting and using the sun to warm up to keep the oil warm, because when we leave that oil sitting around in the sun, it'll help separate out that water so we don't have to use much energy to separate that stuff out. But basically we just start with looking at the blueprints and before we buy anything and really start constructing anything, looking how much money we have in leftover and how we're gonna go about it to do it right the first time.
The other question that we have is if you guys want to have like dos aguas, or if you just want to have like one roof. Like, do you want it to be peaked, or do you want it to just be like one? Peaked, do you think?
Yeah.
The other thing I'd recommend is, you know, if you're going to do the floor at an angle so you can wash it and run it down, when it comes outside, have like a little
gully,
like a canoa,
gutter,
you know, so that it can run along the ground into whatever tank you want to use.
Right.
Or
we do have that set up going over here or something. Yeah, maybe have it all kind of lean this way. They're coming over here. Electricity. A toolbox too. I'd like a little. We should get in, check out prices, and maybe buy a small tool kit that'll stay just in here.
When we tore apart the old Kinderprepa building, we used all those materials to build what's now the art room. And so what we're also doing now, there's an old roof structure that we've taken apart, and we're using all the beams and the metal from that, along with concrete block that we had left over from a different building, to basically fund the material part of this.
Awesome.
And so a lot of the materials that are going to go into the base part of this are recycled materials from campus.